Welcome to Season 2 of Strengths on Fire, the Great Strengths Debate.
Think you know Clifton's strengths? Think again.
This season, we're breaking down the biggest myths
Challenging conventional wisdom.
and showing you how strengths actually show up in leadership, life, and the messy middle of real work.
Sarah, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Let's light it up! So, Bill! We're
Hey,
here.
Sarah, what are you up to today? I told you about balloon races for me. What are you doing?
Yeah, I've got a sick kid home, which is the second Friday in a row to have a sick kid. It's a different sick kid than last time, so I'm constantly looking out my door to see if anyone's going to be pitter-pattering in here.
You're swapping sick kids on a regular basis.
Yeah, we got the tummy aches. The tummy aches.
Is it coming from the school? Is it coming what is it? Is it going to Corey? Is it going to you? How's this working?
I think it is constipation. Lovely topic for a podcast today. Hello, everybody.
Right.
I hope you're not eating lunch. But I think that it is that and I'm pretty confident that that's what we have going on is a tummy full of poop. And so, lovely things that you didn't think that you would know so much about, and then you become a parent and you're like, wow, okay,
there it is.
Really talking about bowel movements a lot. What's the texture? Wow. When did you go? How did it feel? A lot of that. You asked. Not all of us can have 70 hot air balloons out our window. Some of us are just dealing with constipated kids.
At my age, it's starting to sound like you're my doctor too. So.
Okay, well, speaking of your doctor, I have a question for you. That was a terrible segue, but, here we go.
No, I take them all.
Okay, this one's going to take some thinking.
Ooh.
If you could swap one of your top 5 strengths for one in your bottom 5 for just 1 week, which would you pick and why?
Top 5 to bottom 5.
Just one. Bring one of your bottom 5 into the top 5 and why.
But it's only one that I get to deal with.
That's right. It's just 1 week.
All right, you ready? I'm ditching woo. I'm gonna.
I don't think you have to ditch one. I think you just get to bring one up.
Oh, I thought swapping. One goes down, one comes up.
Okay, sure.
Okay, well, I was going to say if I can bring just one up and keep my woo, the one I would bring up would be, wow, either competition or significance. They're influencing both. I might say, because I'm not competitive at all.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by competitive people. I think I'd love to see it. I'd love to be in a competitive vein a little bit just to understand it a little better.
Yeah.
But darn, I sure like my significance people that I coach too.
Yeah.
I like working with them.
Yeah.
I like what they bring to the table. I like the I've got to make a difference, get my name on a building, make sure that I'm represented long past when I'm gone. I think when I'm gone, my cats will barely remember me. So it might be nice to think about what one of those two might bring up. And those are 32 and 33 for me. Context is number 34. Forget it. I don't.
You don't want
context is now,
which is really interesting for our topic today.
I know.
We don't care. Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say care. I should just say I rely on my context great friends to provide that for me. Right?
Yeah.
What a relationship building pivot. Yeah.
Right. Well, just fun note before we introduce our guest today, we were together at the balloon races, walked over and saw a bunch of balloons take off right across the street from my house. And this morning we were having breakfast at a tent spot, and she was talking about her context. And I was like, wait a minute, where is context for you on your report? And she said, we're doing a podcast in like an hour and a half. It's number 1. You know that. And I wanted to point out to her that, but I said, you realize my context is 34. I don't even remember that I had breakfast this morning, right? So we didn't talk about it at that point, but that is really a bit how context plays for me. Until I get together and I have to think about it and put it together, I won't always remember it. I didn't even fully remember today's second episode was about context. So
clearly not.
Yeah. So
That's
I had
hilarious.
that moment going on. So That's mine. How about you? What would you bring up out of your top 5 if you had to step into one?
Well, I also have competition at 31, and I was going to say that, but since you kind of said that, I'm going to say focus. I have focus at 30, and I'm a real squirrel when it comes to work. I'm like, do this, do this, do this, do this, whatever is like new and fun inside of me. And so I feel like if I could have focus for 1 week, I'd get so much done. Like, oh my God, look at me, productivity queen. Like, get out of my way. All that crap that said I was going to do, I could finally like sit down and finish it. Ooh-wee. But similarly to you, Bill, I have deliberative at 34, and there's no part of me that wants that one for a week. Like, no, thank you. No, because like I lead with Activator, and again, no two strengths are opposites, but I like to go now. Let's do it. Let's get on it. Let's book it. And so the idea of like, oh, let's sit and contemplate it and be really no, that makes me want to throw up. But the focus to just like do the things that I've said I'm going to do and get them done. Ooh, that sounds sweet. That's sweet. I like it.
So funny. Focus is 31 for me. It's like right above the ones I talked about too. So I feel like when I'm in flow, when I'm having my firework moment, I think focus stands up for me sometimes. I think I don't know.
It's coming from somewhere else.
Oh,
I
it is.
don't think your 31 is standing up for you. I think maybe you're just pulling from something else.
But it's why I did not choose focus, because I can get there with other themes. I can step into it and really bear down, stick with it, grit, make it happen. Which I think when I see and coach my focus clients, that is pretty consistent. So I feel like when I am focusing, it could be a lot of different ways I do it. I think my activator steps into that, right? My restorative starts solving the problem, and then I activate on exactly what my restorative finds. And then I do feel that flow for me. So, but I love that you brought up focus, because I do, when I deal with my focus people and I get to hear how they are just so good at necking down to it and sticking with it. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. It's one to be envied for sure.
Yeah.
Big strengths
I agree.
envy. But you sort of led us here, and then we went away from it a little bit, but we're talking about context today.
We are. And
our guest has number 1 context.
Yes. And speaking of amazing guests, wonderful people I get to introduce, Olivia is a friend of ours. We've kind of built on some friendship after she reached out from a coaching point of view, and her husband, herself, and Renee and I have been running around doing a lot of stuff. So very fortunate to consider them friends, but also some client work we've done together. And once we found context was number 1, we knew Olivia and I had to figure out how that works, because it just is so foreign to me, Olivia. I love it. I love it in you. I think it's great. So we get to coach and build around that. So with that, I want to welcome Olivia to the show.
Thank you.
So Olivia, can you talk about what it is you do, where you're going, what you're up to, and then kind of tell us your top 10 strengths as well. So as you're breaking it down, people can listen for the clues of those strengths.
Sure. Yeah. So the role that I'm in most often is I'm a data and a business analyst. So I build dashboards is how I usually frame it to people, so I don't bore them with all the technicalities. Context comes in quite a bit there, right? Because you have to be descriptive first before you can get into the fanciness of how to interpret what's going on with that. So I've found that sort of mid-career and just loved it, and made a pivot out of doing more kind of like project and program work. And it just really melds, I think, a lot of my strengths in a way that I really enjoy. And then beyond that, like you were saying, Bill, my other half is the face of a business called Tradewinds Leadership, which he and I collaborate on. That's sort of, I talk about, it's my secondary job in the background, because I lean more into that strategic skill set. And so that's the value that I'm bringing to the team there, where he's an orange monster over there. He's just got influencing all over the place. So we work together on that, and And the premise of that business is really around coaching and development for people in blue collar occupations, specifically around mental health. For anyone that's listening that doesn't know, as an example, mining and construction are actually the two highest suicide rates according to industry.
Way.
Yeah. So, and quite a bit, I think construction is about 4 times and mining is more like 5.5.
Wow.
Yeah. So we both actually come from construction families, and wasn't something we ever really knew. But especially because it is Suicide Prevention Month, I feel like it's pertinent to bring that up as something that's very close to us. And it's amazing how many people hear that and they have that reaction, Sarah, like, wow, but nobody's ever really shocked. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy there that we're working in.
Yeah, it's surprising in the fact of like, I didn't know it, but you're right. When you sit down, you think about it, you're like, I guess that can make sense.
Right. And you as coaches, when you go into certain types of businesses, there's sort of a thread that you expect.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're kind of the strategist around thinking of Tradewinds. Talk about your top 5 or maybe your top 10 for a second. Hit us with that list, but you do have that context, as we mentioned, but you also have input and you lead with strategic thinking. So what are your top 10 and maybe how they play out for you a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So context, activator, communication, input, individualization. That's top 5 there. And then we have achiever, competition, ideation, adaptability, and significance.
You ain't hurting for them oranges either, girl.
No, not really.
Nope, she's got them.
It's true. And it's funny when you were talking about focus, discipline is number 30 down there. And I was eyeballing that one. Same kind of idea. It's just like achievers doing a lot of heavy lifting over here. So I've always, a ranger is maybe one of the other ones that I'm like, I really think people that have a ranger, it's like my little theme envy.
Yeah, it is a wonderful theme. But do you squirrel yourself? Because I could see I've got adaptability and that activator, but you have achiever. So I'm curious, are you squirrel braining to other things, or can you get it done because it's on the list?
If I don't manage myself, it's easy to go squirrel. So it's a learned self-management because that ideation and input. The ideation and input are really, there's always some really good idea, something that's coming up and going like, ooh, that would be really good. Yes. So I've gotten really good about like storage centers, like great idea, activator, calm down. We don't have to do it right this minute. Go put it in the park. I know, right? Trust me, I understand. So I put it in the parking lot. Like, I know it's a Ferrari. We can't drive it right now. Just leave it over there. Because that activator is always, and that's definitely, especially from a career capacity, learning how to just take the foot off of the accelerator sometimes. Like, does it have to be right now? Do we need to push that hard right this minute? That's certainly something that comes up as well.
Got it.
So when we think about our topic today, which is all about context, right? It's when context keeps you stuck in the past. And we've got someone here with context number 1, and we're lucky enough to have someone with context at 34, which is a great dichotomy to this conversation. Now,
Bill, I will fight you.
As a coach, I describe context to people as a theme that informs the present by the past. So a lot of times I'll tell people that this theme, they really care about what has happened. I'll say a lot of times they like to go back and see, how did we used to do it? What was done in the past? Is there a template? Can I see an example, right? Anecdotally, I will say almost all of these people will tell me they love learning about history. Like, I want to go to a museum. I love, they'll say, I love World War One, or they always have like some historical thing that they're really into, I feel. It's sort of funny to discover that of people. But I'm curious from you, Olivia, how do you describe context? How does it show up for you?
Gosh, so many ways. And I don't know if this is just common when it's your number one theme, but sometimes I read through the Gallup descriptions and I just go like, oh, that's just not even really the full the full story.
Scratch the surface, right?
Yeah, because there is a lot of that historical. Sometimes I feel like it can be interpreted really literally. Where for me, there are a couple of things. I was actually just saying to Bill the other day, I absolutely loathe making the same mistake twice. Makes me absolutely bonkers because I don't know if you're familiar. There's a pretty well-known poem about a hole in the sidewalk, and the whole premise is that the first time you walk down the street, you fall in this hole because you don't know it's there, and we go through 5 iterations of this, and the last one is I walk down the street, I see the hole, I take a different street. I don't want it to take 5 iterations. I want to get it the first time. Because it really pains me to be in the same place and go, I knew this was here. I didn't need to do this again.
It reminds me of the old adage, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing. So it definitely shows up in that way. I would also say, what's really fascinating is context and individualization will come up. I've actually had somebody tell me before, oh, I really didn't like you when I first met you because I wanted to know why you were asking so many questions about me. Like they were very uncomfortable because I'm actually just genuinely curious, and I feel like for me, it's difficult to really know someone if I don't know about them and where they come from and, what are the experiences that have formed them as a person. Yeah. That's always really fascinating to me. I would say that's a big part of how I build relationships for sure.
Oh, I love that theme dynamics. Yeah, how your individualization and that context influence each other to make you so curious about people's past and informing where they've been. And so then what do I think about you now? How do I know you? It's like you really want to know people and see them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. And as we're talking about people saying, oh my gosh, you're asking too many questions, I also hear that communication ramp up for you, number 3. So not only are you asking questions, you're just trying to communicate in every way possible. There's body language, there's asking the questions, there's talking yourself to get your point across and making those things happen. Mm-hmm. I assume that's part of that, both the individualization and that context of man, you really came on strong in the beginning, right? That communication probably has a part of that, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's like an intensity dynamic to those themes coming together, right? And there are plenty of people that kind of go, oh, it's just, so being mindful of that it can present a little more aggressive than I don't feel aggressive at all. I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm thinking about, you're talking about you loathe making the same mistake twice. And I feel like context can get a misconception, and maybe for some people it shows up this way, but I think an assumption people make about context is that these folks will use history as an excuse to not change or innovate, right? Well, we've always done it this way. I think that some people think, well, they have context. They think we've always done it this way. We should do it this way. But I am hearing the exact opposite, I think, from you of like, it sounds like you're an innovator. Do you agree with that? And I'm curious of what theme do you think you have also influencing your context that drives that not wanting to make a mistake and in essence then like change something?
Yeah, 1000%. And that is something I've read in those descriptions before that, to your point, and of course, none of the descriptions are, to a T, this is you. That's not right. The point. But every time I read that whole stuck in the past thing, I just cringe because I'm like, absolutely not. And I think it's context with, I I want to say ideation really comes in there, because it starts in a weird way. It's how I come up with like a futuristic vision, because when I'm ideating around, well, where do we want to go? It's about, well, what's worked? Where are people talking about the things that we want to talk about? How are they talking about them? How could we improve it? How could we be the better mousetrap in the way that other people are trying to approach this? So I'm really like, I love research, data. Obviously, I work with data all the time. So for me, it's about, I want to innovate and think about where we're going, but it's always grounded in what's happening right now, and is there something to be learned? Because again, if somebody's already face planted trying it that way, well, I don't need to do that. I'll learn from their, expansion of their energy and do a pivot and try something else.
I feel like I also hear that input, right? Like the context and input, because input loves to collect information. So I can see the context and input like balling up in the theme dynamic of doing the research, knowing what's happened, understanding the basis. But input is really a spring forward, because input loves to take information to share it. And so then it's like you ball up that input and that ideation of like, oh, here's how the spring forward. And I have to think that your activator adaptability probably also play into that of like, okay, well, now we need to move. We need to move now. Like, let's do it this way. Let's go this way. And being able to kind of have that talent to say, we've gathered, we know we're going.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just telling Bill about, Stephen, my husband, he had a speaking engagement yesterday morning, and the entire premise of what he was speaking about, we built over the weekend, because the audience was a little different than other audiences we had done things for. And so that individualization and context for me and the activator come together. And I just have a sense about, this is where these people are sitting, and this is what's going to land, and this is what's going to bring value to them.
Yeah.
And really tailoring that. And we had people that we've worked with in other capacities, and they said it was the best presentation he'd ever given. And we just like totally pulled that thing out of left field this week. But it really speaks to, I think, those talent themes coming together, because he has so much of that influencing, and he's highly adaptable. So he knows how to read the room and just pivot on a dime. And we're really kind of getting into our flow there. It's really fun when that comes together in that way, because he used to resist me a lot more. And we joke about it. He's like, now I just know if you have some kind of a strategic insight about what we need to do, I'm just going to listen to you.
Gotta go with it.
Yeah.
So Sarah, you brought up the spring forward component of input. Very common. A lot of the people we coach with, they're input monsters, but they're really great at taking it in and then doling it out. It's not just a one-way transfer of information.
Right.
To that component, I just want to mention to you, Olivia, we joked about it in the beginning. I have context jealousy, because as it's in 34, I joke often, it should be 36, 37 for me if we could get there, because I literally am not great at remembering a multitude of things. I have to meet you several times before I will know your name, or I will do specific things. I called your husband, Chris, I think the first 2 or 3 times we talked, correct? And eventually I was like, you're right. What am I? I don't know why I thought Chris for some reason, right? I don't look at it as a crux or a reason why I do it. I look at it as a bit of shame, right? I'm like, I need to be better at this. There has to be other ways to step into it. So I look at your context with some jealousy, but another component about context is often really good memory, and it isn't always there, but it can be. Do you find that your memory for those sorts of pieces of information, input, individualization, things that you've gleaned from people is strong?
I would say if you're talking verbatim or like photographic memory, absolutely not. I mean, if I'm stressed, I'm the person that's like, where's my phone? 5 times in the span of an afternoon because I put some laundry in and I set it on the, you put it in some
relatable
harebrained place. And then Steven's laughing at me because I'm paging my phone from my watch.
Thank God for the Apple Watch. I mean, the
Right.
best use case of an Apple Watch is to be able to find your frickin' phone when you accidentally shoved it in a drawer.
The things that you do. Right. So, but what I do feel like I have really good recall on is actually, I don't know how to say this, impressions. Like if we go to a conference and I hear a keynote, I can't regurgitate a lot of specifics about it, but I can summarize that really well and say, okay, the crux of this was really this. This is what the nugget was in that. And this is what's actually influential in the sense of what it means for the audience, the industry, whatever the case may be. And I don't know exactly where that's coming from, but it's always like a broad brush. I'm not really, I don't, as much as I work with data, my little shame, my little dirty secret is I don't have analytical. And the teams that I work on tend to be extremely analytical. But they'll, I remember a coworker at one point, he asked me, he said, somebody's asking about why sales are down on this product. Do you know anything about it? Because you do all the reporting for the operations. And I said, well, we don't really look at that aspect of the data as much, but has anybody talked to the sales staff? Because we've had, some layoffs and turnover and things like that. Like, do they even know what they're talking about? Do you have talent that knows how to sell this? And he goes, I didn't even think about it that way. He was looking in the numbers.
Yeah.
He's like, somewhere in these numbers, there's an answer. And I'm going, I feel like it could be contextual,
Right.
Yeah. And to continue that question, so I feel like you, when I'm in a conference, I can surmise it really well, but that's because my futuristic and context are both really low. So I'm living in the moment. And in living in that moment, I am absorbing what I can at that moment. So if you ask me after the conference what it was, I'll pound it out for you. I'll make it happen. Conversely, when I run into somebody at an event and I recognize the face, but I have no idea who you are, right? And that person's like, hey, Bill, how are you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, great. The first thing that I try to do is think, are we friends or do we dislike each other? Like, was there a negative? Did something, because I need to come.
You really think that?
Sometimes. And I
Why would
struggle.
Wow.
Because I struggle sometimes, like I'll see a face and if I don't, or we don't acknowledge each other, we just go, we know each other somehow. I'm trying to put it together. Was it,
I feel like usually if people don't like you, they don't talk to you. They're just doing
possibly,
a
right.
blind walk by.
But my point here is, like, I can take a theme and man, I can nail it. But if it comes to thinking about it really in the past, like I don't know who you are and we're just trying to sort it out. And I'm like, were you the person that, I cut off on the freeway and we we're mad at each other. I have no idea, but I really struggle referencing that back. Even the context of the feelings around our relationship sometimes. And you said, I'm good at the overall feeling component. So is it different for you from a process of like conferences and events and organization versus people, or is it the same for both? Do you find that the people part of it is also really easy for you to pull up and surmise, or do you struggle with that as well?
Actually, I would say that. Yeah, I generally have a pretty solid recall on, friend or foe, ally or enemy, winner or loser, that sort of litmus test. Yeah, I would say and isn't that funny? It's one of those things, like you said, Sarah, it would never occur to me that was actually a strength. It's just, I assume that's just sort of how people operate,
right.
And because I might be going along and I see Bill and he has no idea who I am. And I'm like, well, what a schmuck, like how dare he?
Right.
We went to the balloon races. Like, how could he possibly?
How could he forget me? Well, that's so interesting because I have contacts at 11. So I do feel like I can pick it up off the floor sometimes. And I have high input too. So I a lot of times do like to know, well, what's been done in the past. I am the type of person, like I don't get hung up on it, but I do like to gather information. And with all my relationship building themes, I like to really go to people and be like, how do you do this? What did this look like? I like to see even like if other strengths coaches, like when they have presentations, I'm fascinated. I want to see, how did you do this? What does it look like? And I'm not going to copy it, but I love to take that inspiration. And that's how I see like that context input kind of like gathering and knowing and launching forward. I got a real hard time remembering names of people. That like memory component I do not have, but I can typically remember things. And it's not always like the right thing. Like I'll be like, I don't know how I know them. I can't remember how long I've known them, but I do remember they have a son. You know?
Right,
And that's
yeah.
how I use it. And then my woo will come in those situations where I'll be like, how is the boy? You know, and then it's like, hey, I remember you. Now, can I remember your name or how we know each other? No, but I've said a thing now that you now feel like I know who you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely done that. Like if I remember something unique about you, I'll ask about it in a desperate attempt for you to tell me your name.
Yeah,
Right?
I just want you to like me. You're like, oh, you remember me. That is great. Okay, but to get us back on track here, when we are thinking about this context, Olivia, you sound really good about being able to pivot. We've talked about that, how you can move forward. What advice would you have for other people with context who maybe do get stuck in the past? Do you have, since you have it so high and know it so well, do you have any advice that you would offer people who have that but do feel like, you know what, I kind of rattle around a minute too long on the way we've done it or how it was, and I do have problems getting the momentum to move forward?
Yes. And the thing is, I can relate to that because it does show up. For me, the way it shows up is I need a lot of information on the front end to understand why. That's sort of like bare minimum criteria. Why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Why is it important? To the point that, you know, even in relation to doing data analytics, one of the things we do are what we call ad hocs. And that's when somebody has an emergent thing and they just kind of throw it over the fence and they say, I need this thing. And I am horrible. I drive people crazy because I am the worst at, you hand me a list of things and I just go do it. I have to understand the business case and like, why do you have, because most of the time it's about, I don't trust that your context is high enough that you've thought through all the variables. And inevitably, if I just do this, you're going to come back and be like, well, wait, I forgot a thing.
Yeah.
And that makes me crazy. So what I've found with context when it sort of overextends is there's a question that I try to ask about, does it matter? Like, do I need all of the background? Like, what is the risk of not having all of the information in relation to the deliverable? Like, you know, if we're building a flyer, do I need to look at 15 flyers to feel like I have the exact right proportions and the right elements and because I can go completely down a rabbit hole. Like, you know, those people that have like 1,500 tabs open on Chrome. Like,
I'm very
sorry.
familiar.
Do we know them? Do we know them?
Right.
Huh, Sarah. Sarah, can you think of one? Huh.
I wonder.
Sorry.
I can think
and
of
by the
seven,
way, pro
Jeremy.
tip on that one, they have tab groups. If you use
I have
Chrome,
heard of that before. And yet I've still never used it.
and you know what it is? It's my sneaky way to look like I don't have so many open because I just collapse them and then I don't get grilled by people.
That's smart. I like that, but I'm
That is
too
smart,
lazy
yeah.
to make it even a group.
She just
Shame.
is.
That right click, it's just too much.
Shame.
She has her moments, right? So, next question for you, Olivia, in regards to the way you use context, we're talking about how some people are stuck in the past with it and how dragging them out can be very, very difficult. In relation to your marriage with Stephen, I'll call him Chris for the rest of the podcast. In relation to Stephen/Chris, do you find a dynamic partnership component with your context? Are there times where he is relying on you to have that contextual information, or give us an example of where he isn't living in the context at the moment and you're like, let me help you with that. Let's talk about what that might look like, or something along those lines where instead of getting stuck in the past, you're finding it as a pro moment in your relationship or in your business.
Oh, absolutely. And thankfully it's two people that are very growth oriented and really believe in all this. That definitely helps that we, that's one of the fundamentals, right? You have to honor other people's strengths and not look at it like, oh, that's weird and different. I don't have that. For him, he is so, like you said, Bill, very in the moment. And that's really the value that he brings, is that he's so adaptable and able to really meet people where they are in the space that they're in. But he is, and he's learned this over time as we've iterated on things, he's so much more powerful when he has that really solid foundation that he's building on. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we collaborate from the standpoint of, again, if we have an ask from a client for a presentation, it's always, for me, the context, going back to the context and individualization, to say, okay, what does that audience really need in the scope of what we have some kind of competency around? What can we give? Like, what can we give to them that would be helpful to them? Whereas he would be a lot more apt to just, we joke about this, he would start building a PowerPoint. He would just dive right in and just start sticking stuff on there. And, it's like Legos and it's kind of doing this. And then I'm like looking over his shoulder and my eyes are starting to get wide. Because for me, there's a very big narrative component, because context is, in a way, what's the story? Yeah. Where are we starting from, and what's our narrative arc? What's our journey to get to this improvement that we want to achieve? So that combination's been really great, because once he knows the story, he's the storyteller. Mm-hmm. So he comes in and he takes that, and it's just been such a fun partner. We had that friction in the beginning of, he would literally be, I'd be sitting there kind of doing my contextual thing, pumping the brakes on him, and his activator, he was absolutely like crawling in his chair. He's such a light, amicable person, and he would get grumpy. He would actually be grumpy because he wanted to do something and I was slowing him down. And I definitely I get that with context. People go, do we really need to, and thankfully we've gotten to this point where he sees the value in it, and he realizes, oh, I can really nail this when I know what's my platform. What am I starting with?
A great example of powerful partnerships and how strengths can complement each other. That's really cool. I want to move to the LinkedIn poll to see what you think about this. So today for our LinkedIn poll, I said, when you catch yourself stuck in the past, what's most likely holding you there? And 50% of people said comfort in what's familiar. 25% of people said fear of losing control. 13% said unfinished business. And 13% said nostalgia. Thoughts?
I get the comfort component. There are specific things. I come home after a long day, or I'm coaching and I've done a lot of mental gymnastics with a lot of people or clients. I don't want to do that. I want to come home and be comfortable. I want to come to my cave and binge something that I'm watching at the moment and just not do a lot of gymnastics for it. I just want to step into it and let something else do the jumping around for me instead of me having to put it together. I get the comfort side of it. I think the nostalgia thing for me doesn't work. For me, I appreciate old cars. We have a massive car show here in Reno that's here every year. I appreciate walking around seeing them. I appreciate seeing them coming in and going out. I don't need to know the year it was made or if you've put time and effort into it, it's beautiful. And they are. I mean, there's thousands of them here and they are beautiful. But I just need to know that it's cool and you care and you put time into it. Again, it's more about the relationship to me. Your relationship with the vehicle is that you have made it what it is. It is that you've put all that time and effort into it. That it's a 73 Pontiac GTO, again, totally lost on me. So maybe I think I agree with the poll in that way.
Yeah. What do you think, Olivia?
Well, what was the second one?
It was fear of losing control.
Okay. So I think the one that resonates most with me is probably, I think you said unfinished business. Mm-hmm. Because I think this is about the strategic piece. I tend to ruminate and I'll kind of get stuck in this loop of like, where did that go wrong? I'm trying to sort of do a post-mortem, if you will, and figure out like what was the deal there. And I happen to have restorative 11 is the other thing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's something in that of, wanting to fix it and not being able to, right? Because we just, at some point you have to let it go. And to me, the unfinished business, like, may have nothing to do with anyone else, right? It might be about, you have to get right with yourself with that situation and take the lesson or whatever is inherent in that and find a way to look forward instead of backward.
Yeah, I can see a lot of businesses when they have people that are used to doing things a certain way. So I'm thinking if you have a certain CRM or database or whatever system you're using, I'm thinking about when new leadership comes in or the organization for whatever makes a change and they say we're gonna transition from this platform to this platform. The amount of people who are like, no, and even when they're
that's
like,
me and Bill,
even when they're like, it's gonna be easier, it's gonna be easier. You're like, well, listen, I know I have to do 50 clicks to get to this one thing on this system, but I know all 50 clicks. Like, I'm comfortable in the 50 clicks. So now you're telling me this new system is only going to be 2 clicks. Listen, I don't care. I know my 50 clicks. And that's what that first, being stuck in the past because I'm so comfortable with what I know. And I think as humans, everything is always changing for us. And yet we like the comfortability of what we know and the familiar, even if it's hard, because the change itself, I think even anticipating it can feel frightening. Even if the change itself ends up not being that bad, the anticipation that I have to learn something new and I have to do something new it can send some people into a little bit of a spiral where they can be very resistant to moving forward and they would rather just stay where things were at.
I have a lot of systems trauma in that vein.
I have a lot of professional trauma and CRM change myself.
Systems, I think, which to me falls into that unfinished business category. Like, did we learn from the last one? Are you doing it differently? Did you actually make a plan? Is it written down? Like, did we learn from that, or are we just doing the rainbows and Skittles thing? And it's gonna be great.
Yeah, very true. And I sometimes when I work with context people and I coach with them, one thing that shows up for them is consistency, and that's because contextually they are thinking of what worked, what continued. So I will consistently do that. Very interestingly, on your assessment, context is number 1. Consistency is 37, right? Or 34. But yeah, it's way at the bottom. I obviously have mentioned my jealousy over context because it's at the very bottom. What's your relationship with consistency? Do you find it is a one that is you spot and you think, oh man, that one's tough for me? Or do you think it, in some ways, it fuels your context?
No,
No.
I've never, I'm not, I'm fine with it being there. It's not going to get pulled up into the major leagues if I could wave a magic wand. And I think there's something about individualization that for me, they feel like they don't really hang out together that well, because with consistency, it's like it's consistency in the sense of everybody has the same expectation,
fairness.
right? And from a system standpoint, I completely understand that, but I think it's my innovating and the way that I want to get out of the status quo a lot of the time, which maybe seems like a contradiction. It really just, for me, consistency is a little old school of like, well, this is how we do it, and we don't deviate from the script. And it's very, I think in certain environments, it must be very stabilizing, and I could see the value in it. But for how I like to work and the value that I bring, I'm just like, no.
Yeah. And I'm giving consistency a bad riff here, because Gallup generally will tell you consistency is about treatment of people. It's about other people and treating everyone consistently and evenly. But I do see it sometimes playing out in that I am a consistent person. I will tend to do fairly consistent items. So I love your point on that. You don't follow the traditional consistency part of it. How about in treatment of people? How about in the Gallup version of consistency, which is everyone needs to be treated very fairly. There has to be a lot of equity and equitability in that. Or are you willing to have a little dichotomy of how things are depending on your station, where you're at, what you're doing, and that component?
Yeah, I would say I've always had a little bit of like a social justice thing for me, where baseline respect is really important to me. But I am also the person, if you don't extend that, I'm not going to bend over backwards to try and level you up, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of that premise of, well, I'm going to take the high road. And, I wouldn't say I'm interested in being all out adversarial, but there are people that I work with that definitely have this theme. And what I notice is there's almost kind of a harmony element to it, that they find it easier at the end of the day to have this kind of neutrality. And again, I'm not really afraid of bucking the system and challenging the status quo. So, and hierarchy has never been something that I'm interested in. It's working in a corporate environment where people go, well, I've got this in front of my name, so you better. That really puts me off. There's that sort of like inherent, well, because X, I get Y. For me, it's very much on a case-by-case basis, and it's really about how are you showing up, and I'm going to respond accordingly.
Yeah, and I can hear that individualization come out so much for you when you describe that. It makes sense. Maybe even a little bit of that, like adaptability. It's I always think adaptability being a relationship building theme, and consistency being an executing theme. Those ones are a little wobbly for me, domain wise, and I feel like they definitely bounce around a couple different domains, which they just had to shake a certain number of themes out into domains. So some of these are not perfect squares and perfect squares. Let's just be honest with it, okay?
God,
Absolutely.
did we just poke the bear? Sarah, is Gallup going to contact
there's
us?
You listen, adaptability is a relationship building theme, but they will say it is how you respond to things, which I agree. But to me, that's also very executing. I, however, also find that adaptability people are good at maybe being chameleons in social situations or with people, and they can adapt their personality. But really, Gallup leads with more of the, being able to do things in the moment and kind of change things on the fly. But to me, that's not a relationship building component. That's an executing component.
Yeah.
Whereas like consistency, yes, there's people with consistency who, if I will have the same thing for breakfast every day and are okay with that. That to me is executing. But also Gallup talks a lot about consistency is the fair treatment of people wanting to, if we do it for Jane, we do it for John. That's a relationship building component. So I'm just saying all of the themes clearly do all of the things or can do all the things from every domain. We know that, but some of them are definitely more squiggly in my mind than others.
Sure. I would agree with that. So, and speaking of how some of them fit, some of them may not fit, where they hit, where they don't. Olivia, I'm going to ask you from one of our normal questions on this, and that is we're basing this on context today, but it could be any of your themes. When you're firing on all cylinders, we call it our firework moment. When you are all in and you're in the flow and things are moving and it's epically good, what theme are you using, or what combination of themes?
I really think it's ideation 1, and that really might be carrying maybe ideation and significance, actually, when I think about it.
Okay, say more.
Now I'm excited. Significance drawn in the mix. Let's hear it.
Yeah, because I really love purpose-driven work, and that's part of why we do what we do with Tradewinds, is that it's beyond just going and doing consulting in a space that we're familiar with. It's a really acute need, and there are people that are actually legitimately suffering, and we feel like we have some skills and talent that we can supply to that. So, and I say significance rather than context, because the ideation and significance, it's sort of like, if you're going to have a movement, you need something that's inspiring. And significance to me is the one where, like I said, finding that kernel of like, what was the one thing that the speaker said that people really, where the heads are all nodding and you can tell it hit a vein. I have the ability to find those. And I would say that's when we have those firework moments is, strategically, yeah, that's landing. That's the message. That's what's going to get people to realize, this is what we need to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear that. I love that purpose-driven work that drives you, and the ideation significance, how that plays out. Now, on the opposite end, when do you find that your strengths get you into a dumpster fire and kind of get you blocked into a corner? What shows up then?
Oh, it's Activator. Mm-hmm.
It always relatable.
It's I have a dear coach that Jennifer, who I've
what I'm sorry, I thought it was.
Well, listen, there's more than one.
That's absolutely right.
I was there.
But she used a phrase. You know how when you get coaching, they say some really great things. You're like, oh, that was really helpful. And then you think about it later and you're like, man, they really hit me over the head with that. And I didn't really get it in the moment, how much they were actually like hitting me over the head with that and how dead on it was. She would call it storming the hill without the troops. So, I've got the input, I've got the context, I've done the ideating, I have the I know why I'm doing this, and I am gone. And everybody else is like, what is she doing?
Where is she going?
Where's she going? Why? What do you wait? Why? And then the more problematic part is, why the intensity? Why the urgency? Why are you disrupting? Maybe this is somebody
is there a fire we don't know about? Where are you going?
Right. So there's definitely that pace, that sense of, we have to remember that everybody's not going Mach 5.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, like if they're deliberative, you are actively making them so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
by not bringing them along with you. So leaning into communication, right? So that people can they'll join if you give them the opportunity, I think is really the takeaway on that one.
And it makes me think of your firework moment with your significance and your communication, right? And the stuff if you can slow down enough to get them to buy in on the purpose-driven work you're doing because you're sold on it. And if you can show them why it's important, they probably want to jump on the bus.
Right. I mean, Stephen and I, we're strange in the sense that we can take a 6-hour road trip and we never listen to music. We just talk the whole time. Oh gosh, and I know there are introverts out there that are like melting.
That is amazing.
I want to do that.
Yeah, we're just like riffing on ideas, and now AI transcription is a godsend because we don't have to go, wait, write that down. That was really good, and we're like in the car. It's been amazing. And
you just have AI listen to your entire 6-hour conversation and be like, summarize the best points of that for us.
We have like bathroom breaks and stuff. So there's little,
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm totally on board. I feel relationship envy. I don't have that in my relationship. And I there's times I wish I did. That's why I go to girls trips.
It's really fun. It's really fun when because, but you reminded me of this because the last time we took a road trip, I've really, it's like when I find that nugget, I feel really strongly about it, because I just know in my gut, I'm like, this is the thing. And so long story short, we finally had like a visioning conversation about where does Tradewinds go? Why does it exist? What does it do? And there was literally an aha moment. And to your point about context, when we have road trips, I remember where in the road trip it happened.
Wow.
Like the portion of the road. I don't know why. I don't know why that sticks.
Context,
but we were coming around a lake, and he's like,
coming around the mountain.
And he's like, oh, I get it now. Because I had talked about it for like 4 hours straight. Because it's all happening up here at light speed. And context is also like, it's the iceberg. You see this little point up here, but there's like this massive amount of information that I've ingested to get to this point. And I know all of that down there. And and the activator's like, they don't need it. Just go. And then, it creates a mess.
Yeah.
It does.
It also just makes me think this is why I was just thinking about as coaching and what we charge and the value we bring. Your iceberg analogy was making me think like a client sees the tip of the iceberg. What they don't realize is like this coach has all this context and all this experience underneath the surface. And so when you pay for something, you're not paying for the tip of the iceberg. You're paying for everything they know and have gathered over years and years of experience that have made the tip of the iceberg look so damn good and work so well. So a great also analogy for charging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ooh, an upcharging comment. We're going to put that in. There's a famous story about electricians and I'm paying you to screw the light bulb in? And the answer is no. You're paying me for all the years I went to school to make sure that all the electricity is flowing through the the panel and you don't see what you're actually paying me for, which is all the hard stuff, right? Yes, I screw in the light bulb and it worked at the end, but I agree with that. Well, Olivia, thank you so much for coming on today and throwing context around for us because it's so low for me. I just can't. It's painful. So having somebody here with it, number one, it's very enlightening to me. And Sarah, I had to look at yours to see it was number 11. I didn't know it was so high. Somewhere on the floor. So I surrounded by high context ladies today. So thank you for that, both of you.
Yeah, thank you both. I enjoy the podcast a lot. I think the dynamic you have is really fun, and appreciate the time and the talent that you supply to those of us that are always trying to up level a bit around stress.
Yeah, well, don't worry. In 2 weeks.
Go on.
Go on. Yeah, I mean,
continue.
Gosh,
I love it. Thank you.
The bad news is in 2 weeks I won't remember we did it. So there is that. But But no, thank you very, very much, Olivia. You're coming on, laughing with us, having some fun, talking about where we're all going together, and our continued coaching and friendship. So thank you for that. It's been fun. And Sarah, as always, I love being on here with you. So thanks for that.
It's great. It's a great day.
All right.
Yeah, good luck with that impaction situation you've got going on over there. You know?
Oh yeah, I had to go check on him after this.
We just full circled on that. That was
There we
really
go.
good. So.
There we go. Bringing it back. The
I
callback.
remember the context of how this conversation started.
That's right. You and I, Bill, both forgot, but I was like, "Oh yeah, I do have a kid here who's constipated. I gotta go check on him."
On that. Right. All right. Well, on that note, thank you all for listening. Thanks for coming in, having fun with us. We love our arsonists. We love our people checking in. We love our people watching us on YouTube, which, again, what are we at? 5, 6? So
Probably 17.
We love them. We love them. So thank you all for that. And in that vein, we will all talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com. Follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.